pastime appears later in the third canto. Right now we're in chapter 3 for the morning shlokas. But this pastime of Lord Varaha appears starting in chapter 13. So we'll read today from chapter 13, the appearance of Lord Varaha. But it continues actually for another 6 chapters up to chapter 19. So normally we chant Jai Radhamadava or something like that. But for this day, actually appropriate verse would be from Jayadev Goswami's Dashavatar Stotra. I can chant it. I don't know if most of you probably don't know it. I don't know, or maybe you do know it. But I'll just chant it by myself so we can move quickly. We're already behind time. He says, Vasasira Shana Shikare Dharani Tavalagna Shashini Kalanka Kalevani Magna Keshava Durita Shukkara Rupa Jaya Jagadishare. So what he says there is, O Keshava, O Lord Hari, who has assumed the form of a boar, all glories unto you. The earth, which had fallen to the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, is now fixed on the tip of your tusk, just like a spot on the moon. Not even a highly visible spot. The Kaleva Kala means faint spot, just a faint spot. Like when there's a bright moon, you see some very faint spots, not significant compared to the overall brightness of the moon. So similarly, Lord Varaha dove into the Garbhodak ocean. We will hear that pastime and rescued the moon. So Jayadev Goswami is glorifying him for that act. Now when the Lord appears, he accomplishes many, many tasks. So that was just one task, rescuing the earth from the bottom of the Garbha ocean, which is not something we should take lightly. As the Lord says in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that when he appears, fools deride him when he appears in human form. What to speak of when he appears in non-human form, like a boar. They have no idea that they're dealing with God. So this universe that we're looking at, visible universe, is really only half. The other half of the sphere is filled up with water, and that's called the Garbhodak ocean. So just imagine how deep that is. They can't even figure out the distance to the farthest point from the earth. They can't, and they say the universe is expanding, which the Vedic cosmology agrees with. Just imagine how deep that Garbha ocean is, and the earth was all the way at the bottom. So the Lord assumed the form perfect for accomplishing that task. Now, you'll notice on the board there's 3, 13, 49, 49 first, and then we'll go back to 15. Haribol. 3, 13, 49. We're going to recite that together, then we'll go back to text 15 to narrate the pastime. So please put that on the board. On the screen, I should say. We're so used to having that whiteboard, we still say on the board. On the screen, we should have 3, 13, 49. Yes. Okay. So this verse is considered to be the Paul Shruti, which means the benediction verse, or the promissory verse of this chapter. Last Sunday, you may recall, Prabhu gave his lecture, he mentioned this Paul Shruti, the verse that gives you a benediction. So I thought we would begin with the Paul Shruti, because this will give us encouragement to really try to understand and get into the pastime. So let me just call it up on my own device here. I'm sorry, did I say 49? It's actually 48. Go back one verse. Yeah. Ya evam etam hari medaso harehe katam subhadram kattaniya Mayanaha Shinvita Bhaktya Shavayeta Poshatim Janardano Syashu Hridi Prasidati Ya evametang harimeda so hare Katang Subhadrang Kataniyamayana Srinvita Bhaktya Sharayeta Roshatim Janaranosya Shuhridi Prasidati Ya Eva Metang Harimeda Sohare Katang Subhadrang Kataniyamayana Srinvita Bhaktya Shabayeta Voshatim Janardanosya Shuhridi Prasidati Ya Eva Metang Harimeda Sohare Katang Subhadrang Kataniyamayana Srinvita Bhaktya Shabayeta Voshatim Janardanosya Suhridi Prasidati. Please chant. Eva Metang Harimeda Sohare Katang Subhadrang Kataniyamayana Srinvita Bhaktya Shabayeta Voshatim Janardanosya Shuhridi Prasidati. Vaishnavis. Okay, synonyms. Yaha, one who. Evam, thus. Etam, this. Harimeda Saha, who destroys the material existence of the devotee. Harihe, of the personality of Godhead. Katam, narration. Subhadram, auspicious. Kataniya, worthy to narrate. Mayanaha, of the merciful by his internal potency. Srinvita, hearers. Bhaktya, in devotion. Shrabayeta, also allows others to hear. Va, either. Ushatim, very pleasing. Janardanaha, the Lord, Asya, his, Ashu, very soon, Hridi, within the heart, Prasidati, becomes very pleased. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Bor, which is worthy of description, the Lord, who is within the heart of everyone, is very pleased. Please repeat. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Bor, which is worthy of description, the Lord, who is within the heart of everyone, is very pleased. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In his various incarnations, the Lord appears, acts, and leaves behind him a narrative history which is as transcendental as he himself. Every one of us is fond of hearing some wonderful narration, but most stories are neither auspicious nor worth hearing because they are of the inferior quality of material nature. Every living entity is of superior quality, spirit, soul, and nothing material can be auspicious for him. Intelligent persons should therefore hear personally and cause others to hear the descriptive narrations of the Lord's activities, for that will destroy the pangs of material existence. Out of his causeless mercy only, the Lord comes to this earth and leaves behind his merciful activities so that the devotees may derive transcendental benefit. So this is the promise, the benediction for listening attentively to the narration of Lord Varaha's appearance. So now we'll go back to text 15 and we'll just read through. There's not a lot of time. I wanted to read the Sanskrit actually because it's very sweet, but I think time is not permitting. We'll just do the translations and some of the purports. So, text 15. This is Swayambhuva Manu speaking to his father, Lord Brahma. He says, O Master of the demigods, please attempt to lift the earth, which is merged in the great water, because it is the dwelling place for all the living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord. Purport. The great water mentioned in this connection is the Garbhodak ocean, which fills half of the universe. 16. Sri Maitreya said, thus seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. Short purport, but very important. According to Jiva Goswami, the topics delineated here are of different millenniums. The present topics are of the Shweta Varaha millennium, and topics regarding the Chakshusha millennium will also be discussed in this chapter. Because sometimes people say how the pastimes of Varaha don't seem to match up because there are different appearances in different millennia. So, text 17. Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in this matter of creation? It is best to let the Almighty Lord direct us. Purport, the devotees of the Lord, who are all confidential servitors, are sometimes perplexed in the discharge of their respective duties, but they are never discouraged. They have full faith in the Lord, and he paves the way for the smooth progress of the devotee's duty. Text 18. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb. So one devotee wrote to Prabhupada and asked him, how can the Lord come out of Lord Brahma's nose? And Srila Prabhupada wrote back, he said, the Lord is everywhere. So he can come out of any place he wants. He says, just like the sun is rising in the east, but it's not that the east is giving birth to the sun. The sun is existing and rising in that particular place. So the Lord can come out of any place that he wants to. He can take birth from the womb of a devotee, or he can come out of Lord Brahma's nostril, or he can come out of a column like Lord Nrsingadev did. Anywhere he wants to, he can manifest himself. It's not that he's diminished in any way by coming out of Lord Brahma's nose. Text 19. O descendant of Bharata, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation as gigantic as a great elephant. 20. Struck with wonder at observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma, with great brahmanas like Marichi, as well as the Kumars and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity come in the pretense of a boar? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. 22. First of all, this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb, and within a moment he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu? Purport. Since Brahma is the supermost person in the universe, and he had never before experienced such a form, he could guess that the wonderful appearance of the boar was an incarnation of Vishnu. The uncommon features, symptomatic of the incarnation of Godhead, can bewilder even the mind of Brahma. So we should never think, in other words, that if we don't understand something, that is not factual. Because even Lord Brahma, who is the most intelligent in the universe, sometimes he gets bewildered. Next verse. While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, roared tumultuously like a great mountain. 24. The omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated Brahmanas by again roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. Text 25. When the great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. We'll read this purport. The word Maya is very significant in this verse. Maya means mercy, or specific knowledge, and also illusion. Therefore, Lord Boar is everything. He is merciful, he is all knowledge, and he is illusion also. The sound which he vibrated as the boar incarnation was answered by the Vedic hymns of the great sages in the planets Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. The highest intellectual and pious living entities live in those planets, and when they heard the extraordinary voice of the boar, they could understand that the specific sound was vibrated by the Lord and no one else. Therefore, they replied by praying to the Lord with Vedic hymns. The earth planet was submerged in the mire, but on hearing the sound of the Lord, the inhabitants of the higher planets were all jubilant, because they knew that the Lord was there to deliver the earth. Therefore, Brahma and all the sages, such as Bhrigu, Brahma's other sons, and learned Brahmanas were enlivened, and they concertedly joined in praising the Lord with the transcendental vibrations of the Vedic hymns. The most important is the Brihan Naradiya Purana verse, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 26. Playing like an elephant, he entered into the water after roaring again in reply to the Vedic prayers by the great devotees. The Lord is the object of the Vedic prayers, and thus he understood that the devotees' prayers were meant for him. 27. Before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Boar flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering. His very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hooves and his glittering white tusks. Actually, I'm going to read this purport. Sorry, let's go back to that purport. When the Lord is offered prayers by his devotees, his transcendental activities are described. Here are some of the transcendental features of Lord Boar. As the residents of the upper three planetary systems offered their prayers to the Lord, it is understood that his body expanded throughout the sky, beginning from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that his eyes are the sun and the moon. Therefore, his very glance over the sky was as illuminating as the sun or the moon. The Lord is described herein as Mahidraha, which means either a big mountain or the sustainer of the earth. In other words, the Lord's body was as big and hard as the Himalayan mountains. Otherwise, how was it possible that he kept the entire earth on the support of his white tusks? The poet Jayadev, a great devotee of the Lord, has sung of the incident in his prayers for the incarnations. Vasati dashana shikare dharani tavalagna shashini kalanka kaleva namagna keshava durita shukara rupa jaya jagadish hare. Translation: all glories to Lord Keshava, Krishna, who appeared as the boar. The earth was held between his tusks, which appeared like the scars on the moon. Okay, 28. He was personally the supreme Lord Vishnu and was therefore transcendental. Yet, because he had the body of a hog, he searched after the earth by smell. His tusks were fearful, and he glanced over the devotee brahmanas engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. Purport. We should always remember that although the body of a hog is material, the hog form of the Lord was not materially contaminated. It is not possible for an earthly hog to assume a gigantic form spreading throughout the sky, beginning from Satyaloka. His body is always transcendental in all circumstances. Therefore, the assumption of the form of a boar is only his pastime. His body is all Vedas or transcendental. But since he had assumed the form of a boar, he began to search out the earth by smelling, just like a hog. The Lord can perfectly play the part of any living entity. The gigantic feature of the boar was certainly very fearful for all non-devotees. But to the pure devotees of the Lord, he was not at all fearful. On the contrary, he was so pleasingly glancing upon his devotees that all of them felt transcendental happiness. Text 29. Diving into the water like a giant mountain, Lord Boar divided the middle of the ocean, and two high waves appeared as the arms of the ocean, which cried loudly as if praying to the Lord, quote, "O Lord of all sacrifices, please do not cut me in two. Kindly give me protection." End of quote. Text 30. Lord Boar penetrated the water with his hooves, which were like sharp arrows, and found the limits of the ocean, although it was unlimited. He saw the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. Now, this phrase, resting place of all living beings, is not to be taken literally. Obviously, we just heard about beings in Satyaloka, Jana Loka, Tapaloka, but the earth is particularly significant because it is the portal, you could say, from which one can make higher, or can make progress all the way back to home, back to Godhead. Or one can degrade oneself, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. It's up to us. Purport. The word Rasayam is sometimes interpreted to mean Rasatala, the lowest planetary system, but that is not applicable in this connection. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the earth is 7 times superior to the other planetary systems, namely Tala, Atala, Talatala, Vitala, Rasatala, Patala, etc. Therefore, the earth cannot be situated in the Rasatala planetary system. It is described in the Vishnu Dharma. Patalamuleshwara bhoga sanghato vinasya pado pritivim chabhibrataha yasopamano nababhuva sochito mamastu mangaya vivriddhaye harihi. Therefore the Lord found the earth on the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, where the planets rest during the devastation at the end of Brahma's day. Text 31. Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then, his anger glowing like the Sudarshan wheel, he immediately killed the demon Hiranyaksha, although he tried to fight with the Lord. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Vedic literatures describe the incarnation of Lord Varaha, Boar, in 2 different devastations, namely the Chakshusha devastation and the Swayambhuva devastation. This particular appearance of the boar incarnation actually took place in the Swayambhuva devastation, when all planets other than the higher ones, Jana, Mahar, and Satya, merged in the water of devastation. This particular incarnation of the boar was seen by the inhabitants of the planets mentioned above. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests that the sage Maitreya amalgamated both the boar incarnations in different devastations and summarized them in his description to Vidura. Text 32. Thereupon Lord Boar killed the demon within the water, just as a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and tongue of the Lord became smeared with the blood of the demon, just as an elephant becomes reddish from digging in the purple earth. So this is one of the differences between the 2 incarnations. Here it's mentioned that he killed the demon in the water, but when you go further in this canto, chapters 18 and 19, describing the fight between Hiranyaksha and Lord Boar, it's described there was happening on the earth, not in the water. It was happening on the earth. So that's one of the differences in those two incarnations. So, text 33. Then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion like that of a tamal tree. And thus, the sages, headed by Brahma, could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisances unto the Lord. All the sages uttered with great respect, O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. Purport. The Lord can assume any form he likes, and in all circumstances, he is the cause of all causes. Since his form is transcendental, he is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he is in the causal ocean in the form of Mahavishnu. Innumerable universes generate from the holes of his bodily hairs, and thus his transcendental body is the Vedas personified. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and he is the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is never to be misunderstood to be other than the Supreme Lord because of his assuming the form of a boar to lift the earth. That is the clear understanding of sages and great personalities like Brahma and other residents of the higher planetary systems. Text 35. The sages are praying to the Lord. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performances of sacrifice, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass, in your eyes is the clarified butter, and in your 4 legs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. 4 legs because he appeared as a boar. Purport. There's a class of miscreants who are known in the words of Bhagavad Gita as Vedavadi, or so-called strict followers of the Vedas. They do not believe in an incarnation of the Lord. What to speak of the Lord's incarnation as a worshipable hog? They describe worship of the different forms of incarnations of the Lord as anthropomorphism. In the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, these men are miscreants. And in Bhagavad Gita 7.15, they are called not only miscreants but also fools and the lowest of mankind. And it is said that their knowledge has been plundered by illusion due to their atheistic temperament. For such condemned persons, the Lord's incarnation as a gigantic hog is invisible. These strict followers of the Vedas who despise the eternal forms of the Lord may know from Srimad Bhagavatam that such incarnations are personified forms of the Vedas. Lord Boar's skin, his eyes, and his bodily hair holes are all described here as different parts of the Vedas. He is therefore the personified form of the Vedic hymns and specifically the Gayatri mantra. So when you chant your Gayatri today, think of Lord Varaha. Haribol. Text 36. O Lord, your tongue is a plate of sacrifice. Your nostril is another plate of sacrifice. In your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice, and another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears. In your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is a plate of sacrifice known as Soma, and whatever you chew is known as Agni Hotra. Purport. The Vedavadis say that there is nothing more than the Vedas and the performances of sacrifice mentioned in the Vedas. They have recently made a rule in their group to formally observe daily sacrifice. They simply ignite a small fire and offer something whimsically. They do not strictly follow the sacrificial rules and regulations mentioned in the Vedas. It is understood that by regulation there are different plates of sacrifice required, such as Shrak, Shruva, Barhis, Chaturhotra, Ida, Chamasa, Pashitra, Graha, and Agnihotra. One cannot achieve the results of sacrifice unless one observes the strict regulations. In this age, there is practically no facility for performing sacrifices in strict discipline. Therefore, in this age of Kali, there is a stricture regarding such sacrifices. It is explicitly directed that one should perform Sankirtan Yaga and nothing more. The incarnation of the Supreme Lord is Yageshvara, and unless one has respect for the incarnation of the Lord, he cannot perfectly perform sacrifice. In other words, taking shelter of the Lord and rendering service unto him is the factual performance of all sacrifices, as explained herein. Different plates of sacrifice correspond to different parts of the body of the Lord's incarnation. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, it is explicitly directed that one should perform Sankirtan Yagya to please the Lord's incarnation as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This should be rigidly followed in order to achieve the result of Yagya performance. Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Text 37. Moreover, O Lord, the repetition of your appearance is the desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for 3 desires, and your tusks are the result of initiation and the end of all desires. Your tongue is the prior activities of initiation. Your head is the fire without sacrifice, as well as the fire of worship, and your living forces are the aggregate of all desires. 38. O Lord, your semen is the sacrifice called Soma Yagya. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensations are the 7 elements of the Agnishtoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols of various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you are the object of all sacrifices called Soma and Asoma, and you are bound by yagyas only. Purport. There are 7 kinds of routine yagyas performed by all followers of the Vedic rituals, and they are called Agnishtoma, Atyagnishtoma, Ukta, Shodashi, Vajapeya, Atiratra, and Aptoryama. Anyone performing such yagyas regularly is supposed to be situated with the Lord. But anyone who is in contact with the Supreme Lord by discharging devotional service is understood to have performed all different varieties of yagyas. Reminds you of a verse? Yes? Devahuti speaking to the Lord Kapila Dev, where she said that anybody who's chanting the Hare Krishna mantra must have performed all requisite yagyas and everything. So they say, they call many of the devotees as malicious and Yavanas, and yes, they may have taken such birth, but once you take to the chanting of Hare Krishna, then all of that is overlooked. So 39. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisances unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as the Supreme Spiritual Master of knowledge in devotional service. Purport. The qualification of bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, is that the devotee should be free from all material contaminations and desires. This freedom is called vairagya, or renouncement of material desires. One who engages in devotional service to the Lord according to regulative principles is automatically freed from material desires, and in that pure state of mind, one can realize the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, instructs the devotee regarding pure devotional service so that he may ultimately achieve the association of the Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10 as follows. Teishang satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhyogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Translation. To one who constantly engages in the devotional service of the Lord with faith and love, the Lord certainly gives the intelligence to achieve him at the ultimate end. Continuing the purport, one has to conquer the mind, and one may do it by following the Vedic rituals and by performing different types of sacrifice. The ultimate end of all those performances is to attain bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord. Without bhakti, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The original Personality of Godhead, or his innumerable expansions of Vishnu, are the only objects of worship by all Vedic rituals and sacrificial performances. Text 40. How are we doing? By the way, the break fast again is 9:38 to 10:19. So don't eat non-Ekadasi prasadam before that. So text 40, translation. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of the water. Purport. The fortune of the earth planet is praised because of its being specifically sustained by the Lord. Its beauty is appreciated and compared to that of a lotus flower situated on the trunk of an elephant. As the lotus flower, which with leaves is very beautifully situated, so the world with its many beautiful mountains appeared on the tusks of Lord Bor. 41. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. Purport. The word Vibhramaha is significant. Vibhramaha means illusion as well as beauty. When a cloud rests on the peak of a great mountain, it appears to be sustained by the mountain, and at the same time it looks very beautiful. Similarly, the Lord has no need to sustain the earth on his tusks, but when he does so, the world becomes beautiful, just as the Lord becomes more beautiful because of his pure devotees on the earth. Although the Lord is the transcendental personification of the Vedic hymns, he has become more beautiful because of his appearance to sustain the earth. 42. O Lord, for the residential purposes of all inhabitants, both moving and non-moving, this earth is your wife, and you are the Supreme Father. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, along with Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency, just as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the Arani wood. Purport. The so-called law of gravitation, which sustains the planets, is described herein as the potency of the Lord. This potency is invested by the Lord in the way that an expert sacrificial Brahmana puts fire in the Arani wood by the potency of Vedic mantras. By this arrangement, the world becomes habitable for both the moving and non-moving creatures. The conditioned souls who are residents of the material world are put in the womb of Mother Earth in the same way the seed of a child is put in by the father in the womb of the mother. This conception of the Lord and the earth as father and mother is explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 4. Conditioned souls are devoted to the motherland in which they take their birth, but they do not know their father. The mother is not independent in producing children. Similarly, material nature cannot produce living creatures unless in contact with the Supreme Father, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us to offer obeisances unto the mother along with the father, the Supreme Lord, because it is the father only who impregnates the mother with all energies for the sustenance and maintenance of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. But we see, because they don't know the Father and his desires, they actually mistreat the Mother Earth in so many ways, as we know what's going on nowadays. Text 43. Who else but you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you, however, because you acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe. By your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. Purport. When a scientist discovers something impressive to the ignorant mass of people, the common man, without inquiry, accepts such a discovery as wonderful. But the intelligent man is not struck with wonder by such discoveries. He gives all credit to the person who created the wonderful brain of the scientist. A common man is also struck with wonder by the wonderful action of material nature, and he gives all credit to the cosmic manifestation. The learned Krishna conscious person, however, knows well that behind the cosmic manifestation is the brain of Krishna, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 10. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Since Krishna can direct the wonderful cosmic manifestation, it is not at all wonderful for him to assume the gigantic form of a boar and thus deliver the earth from the mire of the water. A devotee is therefore not astonished to see the wonderful boar, because he knows that the Lord is able to act far more wonderfully by his potencies, which are inconceivable to the brain of even the most erudite scientist. Text 44. We started out with text 48, remember, so we'll end there. We're on 44 now, so we're almost done. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly we are inhabitants of the most pious planets, the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas. But still we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. Purport. Ordinarily the body of a hog is considered impure, but one should not consider that the hog incarnation assumed by the Lord is also impure. That form of the Lord is the personified Vedas and is transcendental. The inhabitants of the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas are the most pious persons in the material world, but because those planets are situated in the material world, there are so many material impurities there also. Therefore, when the drops of water from the tips of the Lord's shoulder hairs were sprinkled upon the bodies of the inhabitants of the higher planets, they felt purified. The Ganges water is pure because of its emanating from the toe of the Lord. And there is no difference between the water emanating from the toe and that from the tips of the hair on the shoulder of Lord Bor. They are both absolute and transcendental. Text 45. O Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsensical. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the powerful mystic potencies. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls. Purport. Mental speculators who want to understand the limit of the unlimited are certainly nonsensical. Every one of them is captivated by the external potencies of the Lord. The best thing for them is to surrender unto Him, knowing Him to be inconceivable, for thus they can receive His causeless mercy. This prayer was offered by the inhabitants of the higher planetary systems, namely the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas, who are far more intelligent and powerful than humans. Vishvam Samastam is very significant here. There are the material world and the spiritual world. The sages pray, quote, both worlds are bewildered by your different energies. Those who are in the spiritual world are absorbed in your loving service, forgetting themselves and you also. And those in the material world are absorbed in material sense gratification and therefore also forget you. No one can know you because you are unlimited. It is best not to try to know you by unnecessary mental speculation. Rather, kindly bless us so that we can worship you with causeless devotional service. End of quote. 46. The sage Maitreya said, the Lord being thus worshipped by all the great sages and transcendentalists touched the earth with his hooves and placed it on the water. 47. In this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water, and having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. Purport. The personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, descends by his will to the material planets in his innumerable incarnations for particular purposes, and again he goes back to his own abode. When he descends, he is called an avatar, because avatar means one who descends. Neither the Lord himself nor his specific devotees who come to this earth are ordinary living entities like us. Of course, that us didn't include Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Varaha ki jai. So, I just like to leave with one verse. Many of you know I've recited this many times over the years. It just stuck in my mind as one of the wonderful verses from this section. It's in chapter 18, 318, text number 10. And this is when Hiranyaksha had been told by Varuna, because he wanted to fight, and all the other demigods were avoiding him. So he went to the ocean. Varuna told him, don't worry, the person who's going to kill you, Lord Vishnu, is coming soon. You go and fight with him. So he was looking everywhere, and then he saw when Lord Bor came out of the water with the earth, and he said, an amphibious beast. This earth has been given to us, residents of Patal, and you cannot take it without a fight. So then the Lord responded to him. He said, Satyam vayam po vanago charamarga yusman mridan mrigaye gramya singham namritya pashay pratimoktasya virya vikattanam tabagranantya badra. He said, indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we're searching after hunting dogs like you. One who's freed from the clutches of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you're indulging, because you are bound up by the laws of death. So let's take shelter of Lord Varaha, and we will be freed from the laws of death. Haribo. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and Lord Varaha ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.